Before you scroll, before you assume you've heard this before, listen carefully, because this is not another motivational talk telling you to be confident or work harder. What you're about to hear will quietly dismantle beliefs you didn't even realize were shaping your life. Most men never question why some older men walk into a room and instantly command attention, while others try endlessly and are ignored. It's not looks, it's not money, and it's definitely not luck. There is a psychological shift that happens when a man stops chasing approval and starts embodying calm certainty. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Younger women respond to this shift instinctively, not because they are calculating, but because the human nervous system is wired to seek stability in a chaotic world. The problem is, no one teaches men how to develop that stability. Instead, they're taught performance, tactics, and surface-level confidence that collapses under pressure. This video is not here to flatter you, it's here to confront you, to show you why trying harder has often made things worse, why urgency has cost you respect, and why silence has more power than words when it's grounded in self-mastery. Some of what you'll hear may feel uncomfortable. That's a good sign. Discomfort is where real growth begins. By the end of this video, you won't just understand attraction differently. You'll understand yourself differently. You'll see why presence outweighs effort, why restraint builds desire, and why the men who seem most relaxed often hold the most power. Stay with this until the end, because the final insight ties everything together. And once it lands, you'll realize this was never about younger women at all. It was always about the man you become. Let's slow this down for a moment, because if you understand this first behavior properly, everything else in attraction begins to make sense. Emotional stillness is not silence, and it is not passivity. It is the absence of inner chaos. It is a man who is not being pulled in 10 directions by insecurity, fear of rejection, or the constant need to be seen. When an older man develops emotional stillness, people feel it before he says a single word. His presence lands differently. He doesn't enter a room trying to adjust himself to the mood. The room adjusts to him. Most men believe attraction is created by action, saying the right thing, making the right move, timing the right text. But attraction is far more often created by what you don't do. Younger women, especially those who are emotionally perceptive, are acutely sensitive to nervous energy. They can feel when a man is trying to impress, trying to control the outcome, or trying to be liked. And the moment they feel that, something inside them closes. An emotionally still man does not rush to fill silence. He does not panic when a conversation slows. He does not over-explain his intentions or over-justify his opinions. He trusts that what he brings is enough. This trust is not arrogance. It is grounded self-respect, and self-respect is deeply calming to be around. Stillness comes from experience, from having lived through loss, failure, rejection, and disappointment, and surviving it. Younger men often react quickly because they haven't yet learned that most things do not require an immediate response. Older men who have done the internal work understand that time is an ally. They pause, they observe, they choose their response rather than being controlled by emotion. This is where emotional authority is born. Authority is not dominance. It is not control. It is not raising your voice or asserting power. Emotional authority is when people instinctively trust your reactions, when they believe that if something goes wrong, you won't fall apart. Younger women are not looking for someone to entertain them endlessly. They are looking for someone whose emotional center feels solid, someone who doesn't add to the noise of the world. Think about this carefully. A woman does not relax in the presence of a man who is constantly proving himself. She relaxes in the presence of a man who has nothing to prove, and relaxation is the doorway to attraction. An older man with emotional stillness does not mirror a woman's emotional swings. If she is excited, he doesn't escalate. If she is uncertain, he doesn't chase. If she pulls back, he doesn't panic. This creates a psychological contrast. His steadiness becomes an anchor, and humans are drawn to anchors, especially in an emotionally unpredictable world. This is not about emotional suppression. Stillness is not numbness. A still man feels deeply. He simply doesn't leak his emotions everywhere. He has learned the discipline of containment. He knows that strength is not the absence of feeling, but the ability to hold feeling without being ruled by it. Younger women notice this most in moments of tension, when plans change, when there is disagreement, when something doesn't go smoothly. Most men reveal themselves in these moments. They become defensive, irritated, or withdrawn. A still man remains present. He listens without interrupting. He responds without attacking. That composure communicates maturity faster than any compliment ever could. There is also something deeply attractive about a man who is comfortable with uncertainty. Emotional stillness allows a man to sit in the unknown without rushing to control it. He doesn't demand clarity prematurely. He doesn't force outcomes. This patience feels rare, and rarity psychologically increases value. At a philosophical level, emotional stillness is mastery over the self. It is a man who has learned that his worth is not dependent on external validation. He is not at war with the world, and he is not at war with himself. That inner peace radiates outward. People don't consciously analyze it, but they feel safer around it. And safety is the foundation upon which attraction is built. An older man who has cultivated stillness understands something most people never learn. You do not need to be louder to be heard. You do not need to be faster to be chosen. You do not need to be reactive to be relevant. Presence, when grounded, does the work for you. This is why emotional stillness often makes a man seem mysterious, even when he is being completely honest. He reveals himself gradually, naturally, without urgency. There is no emotional flooding, no pressure, and that space invites curiosity. Curiosity leads to connection. Connection leads to desire. If you are listening to this and thinking, this sounds difficult, you are right. Stillness is earned. It comes from facing yourself honestly, from regulating your nervous system, from learning when to engage and when to step back. It comes from choosing long-term self-mastery over short-term validation. But here is the truth that changes everything. You do not need to be younger, richer, or more attractive to develop emotional stillness. You need discipline, self-awareness, and the courage to stop outsourcing your worth to other people's reactions. And when you do, something remarkable happens. People begin to lean toward you instead of you leaning toward them. Conversations slow down, respect increases, attraction becomes effortless, because the man who is at peace with himself does not chase attention. Attention finds him. And if you remember nothing else from this, remember this one thing. The strongest energy you can bring into any room is not intensity, charm, or dominance. It is calm certainty. Cultivate that, and everything else begins to align. Now let's talk about something that quietly determines attraction more than looks, more than charm, and more than money. Yet almost no one is taught how to do it properly. Selective attention, not indifference, not games, not pretending to be busy, but genuine selectivity rooted in a full life and a clear sense of self. Most men believe attraction grows when they give more. More compliments, more availability, more reassurance, more effort. And at first glance, that sounds logical, but psychologically, human desire does not respond to excess. It responds to meaning. And meaning is created through boundaries. An older man who is irresistible understands that attention is not a reflex. It is a choice. He does not distribute it automatically to whoever shows interest. He pays attention where it feels aligned, earned, and reciprocal. That alone changes the entire emotional dynamic. Younger women are especially sensitive to how a man uses his attention. They notice who he listens to. They notice how quickly he responds. They notice whether his focus feels intentional or desperate. Attention that is scattered feels cheap. Attention that is deliberate feels valuable. This is not about withholding affection to create anxiety. That's manipulation, and it always collapses eventually. True selectivity comes from having standards, priorities, and an internal life that doesn't revolve around external validation. An older man with selective attention does not rush to reply to everything because his time already has structure. His days are shaped by purpose, not reaction. When he shows up, he is present. When he listens fully. And because his attention is not constant, it carries weight. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When you give attention freely, it stops being noticed. When you give it selectively, it becomes felt. Think about the difference between someone who compliments everyone and someone who rarely speaks. But when they do, it's precise and thoughtful. One blends into the background, the other leaves an impression. Attraction works the same way. Psychologically, humans are wired to value what is scarce but meaningful, not artificial scarcity, but natural limitation. An older man who has lived, struggled, built, failed, and rebuilt understands that energy is finite. He doesn't overextend it emotionally, socially, or romantically. That restraint communicates self-respect, and self-respect is contagious. Selective attention also signals discernment. It tells a woman, consciously or unconsciously, that this man is not easily impressed, that he observes before investing, that he chooses rather than reacts. This creates a subtle but powerful shift. Instead of wondering how to impress him, she wonders what caught his attention in the first place. That curiosity is not accidental. It's psychological. A man who gives attention only when something resonates creates emotional polarity. There is space. There is room for anticipation. Conversations don't feel rushed. Silence doesn't feel threatening. Everything slows down, and in that slowing, attraction deepens. Most men fear this space. They feel the need to fill it with words, messages, and reassurance. But space is where desire breathes. When everything is available all the time, nothing feels special. Selective attention also protects a man's emotional center. He doesn't absorb every mood. He doesn't chase every signal. He doesn't personalize every reaction. That emotional containment feels grounding to younger women, especially those navigating an overstimulated world where attention is cheap and constant. There is another layer to this that matters deeply. An older man who uses selective attention does not pedestal youth, beauty, or novelty. He doesn't become overly impressed by surface traits. He responds to depth, character, and energy. That alone makes a woman feel seen beyond her appearance, and paradoxically, that makes her feel more attractive. Because being chosen for who you are rather than how you look creates emotional intimacy. And emotional intimacy is far more powerful than flattery. Selective attention also shows up in how a man speaks. He doesn't dominate conversations. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't perform. He allows pauses. He asks questions that matter. He responds instead of reacting. This kind of engagement feels rare because it is rare. Most people are waiting to talk. Very few are truly listening. When an older man listens selectively, he doesn't just hear words, he hears patterns, he hears inconsistencies, he hears what is said and what is avoided. That level of presence creates trust, and trust opens the door to attraction that isn't fleeting. There is also strength in an older man being willing to withdraw his attention when something feels misaligned. Not with anger, not with punishment, but with calm clarity. He doesn't argue with disrespect. He doesn't negotiate his boundaries. He simply redirects his energy. That ability to walk away emotionally intact is deeply magnetic because it signals abundance. Not abundance of options, but abundance of self. It says, I value my time, my energy, and my peace. And people instinctively respect what is respected. Many men confuse selectivity with coldness. They fear being perceived as distant. But there is a difference between being unavailable and being intentional. Intentional attention feels warm, focused, and sincere. It just isn't endless. An older man who embodies this understands something crucial. Attraction is not built by trying to be chosen. It is built by choosing well, and that choice begins internally. If you are constantly scanning for approval, You cannot be selective. If your sense of worth rises and falls with attention, you cannot be grounded. Selective attention is the outward expression of an inward standard. This is why younger women often feel drawn to older men who seem unbothered by trends, social pressure, or constant connectivity. Their attention isn't fragmented. It isn't frantic. It feels settled. And in a noisy world, settled energy feels powerful. So if you want to develop this behavior, don't start by changing how you date. Start by changing how you live. Build a life that deserves your attention. Clarify what matters to you. Learn to say no without guilt. Learn to be present without being consumed. Because the goal is not to be desired by everyone. The goal is to be deeply valued by the right people. And here is the closing truth to sit with. Attention is not what you give to be liked. It is what you offer when something truly aligns. When you treat your attention as valuable, others feel its value too. Choose where you place it carefully, and attraction will follow without force. Now we need to address a behavior that many men resist hearing because it goes directly against what they've been conditioned to believe about masculinity, desire, and attraction. Lack of sexual urgency, not lack of interest, not suppression of desire, but the absence of hunger. Most men think attraction grows when they signal desire quickly and clearly. They believe showing strong sexual interest proves confidence. In reality, urgency reveals need, and need collapses polarity. An older man who is irresistible understands this intuitively. He does not rush intimacy. He does not push conversations towards sex prematurely. He does not treat attraction like a race with a deadline. His energy is relaxed. His interest is calm. And that calm creates tension in the best possible way. Younger women feel this immediately. When a man is sexually urgent, his attention narrows. He stops seeing her as a whole person and starts seeing her as an outcome. That shift is subtle, but it's felt. The conversation tightens, the energy changes, and even if she goes along with it, something inside her disengages. Lack of urgency, on the other hand, keeps the interaction spacious. It allows curiosity to grow. It allows attraction to mature instead of spike and crash. Psychologically, desire intensifies when it is not demanded. When a man is comfortable letting things unfold, he communicates abundance. Not abundance of women, but abundance of time, self-control, and choice. An older man who has lived understands something most people learn too late. Anything rushed is usually driven by fear. Fear of losing the moment. Fear of rejection. Fear that if you don't act now, you'll miss your chance. That fear leaks through behavior no matter how well it's hidden. A man without sexual urgency has already resolved that fear within himself. He knows that if a connection is real, it doesn't need to be forced. And if it isn't real, forcing it only creates regret. This creates an interesting psychological reversal. Instead of her wondering if he wants her, she starts wondering why he's so calm, why he isn't pushing, why he isn't escalating like everyone else, and that curiosity begins to build desire organically. This is where many men get confused. They think slowing down means being passive. It doesn't. It means being intentional. A man without urgency still flirts. He still expresses interest. But his desire is grounded, not frantic. It's confident, not consuming. There is also something deeply respectful about this behavior. When a man is not urgent, he gives a woman space to feel her own desire instead of reacting to his. That autonomy is incredibly attractive, especially to younger women who are constantly pressured by attention. At a deeper level, lack of sexual urgency signals self-mastery. It shows that a man is not ruled by impulse, that he can sit with desire without acting on it immediately. Philosophically, this is strength, the ability to want without needing, and people are drawn to strength that is quiet. Younger women, whether consciously or not, are evaluating emotional safety. A man who cannot regulate his desire often cannot regulate much else. If he collapses under attraction, what happens under stress, conflict, or disappointment? Lack of urgency reassures without words. There is also a power dynamic here that is often misunderstood. Power does not come from withholding sex to gain leverage. That's manipulation. True power comes from not needing leverage at all. When intimacy happens because it feels right, not because it was pushed, it carries meaning. An older man who understands this does not count dates, messages, or timelines. He doesn't measure progress by physical milestones. He measures alignment, energy, ease, mutual interest, and that mindset changes everything. Instead of asking, "How fast can I get there?" he asks, "Is this connection worth deepening?" That question alone shifts his posture from seeking to choosing. This is why lack of urgency often makes a man feel more masculine, not less. He is not performing desire, he is containing it. And containment creates intensity. Just like a slow burning fire produces more heat than a flash, there is also an emotional maturity here that younger women find rare. Many have experienced men who escalate quickly, then disappear just as fast. Urgency is often followed by disinterest. Calm desire, on the other hand, tends to be consistent. Consistency builds trust. Trust builds attraction that lasts. An older man who embodies this understands that intimacy is not something to extract. It is something to arrive at together. He allows anticipation to grow. He allows emotional connection to lead physical connection, not the other way around. And when intimacy finally happens, it feels chosen, not consumed. This behavior also protects a man from compromising his standards. Urgency makes people overlook red flags. It makes them attached to potential instead of reality. A man without urgency sees clearly. He doesn't romanticize prematurely. He doesn't project fantasies onto strangers. That clarity is powerful. If you are listening and thinking this requires suppressing desire, understand this clearly. Suppression creates tension in the wrong way. Regulation creates freedom. The goal is not to kill desire, but to be bigger than it. When you can hold desire without being controlled by it, you move differently. You speak differently. You look differently, and people feel that difference. This is why younger women often describe certain older men as grounded, safe, or different, even if they can't articulate why. What they're feeling is the absence of urgency, the lack of pressure, the permission to breathe. So if you want to cultivate this behavior, start by addressing your relationship with desire. Ask yourself whether you're acting from fullness or fear. Learn to sit with attraction without needing immediate validation. Build a life where intimacy is an addition, not a rescue. And here is the closing thought to carry with you. Desire is most powerful when it is chosen, not chased. When you stop rushing intimacy, you allow attraction to deepen on its own terms. Master that, and you won't need to pursue desire anymore. It will meet you where you stand. Now we arrive at the behavior that quietly ties everything together, the one that gives emotional stillness its weight, selective attention its credibility, and lack of urgency its power. Direction without needing validation. This is where attraction stops being something you try to create and becomes something you embody. Most men believe direction means dominance, being in charge, leading loudly, making decisions quickly and expecting others to follow. But that is not direction, that is control. True direction is internal. It is a man who knows where he is going even when no one is watching, applauding, or approving. An older man who is irresistible does not ask the world who he should be. He has already asked himself the difficult questions and lived with the answers long enough for them to settle. His values are not theoretical, they are practiced. And because of that, his life has coherence. His words align with his actions. His choices make sense over time. Younger women feel this alignment instinctively. They may not be able to articulate it, but they feel that he is not improvising his identity. He is not reshaping himself to fit the moment. He is not mirroring her just to be liked. He is moving forward on his own path and inviting someone to walk alongside him, not ahead of him and not behind him. Direction without validation begins with self-trust. A man who constantly looks for external approval cannot lead his own life. Every opinion destabilizes him. Every reaction shifts his course. That volatility feels unsafe. Direction, on the other hand, feels predictable in the best way. It signals that this man will not disappear emotionally when things become uncomfortable. An older man with direction is not afraid of disagreement. He does not collapse when challenged. He listens, considers, and then decides, not defensively, not stubbornly, but calmly. That calm decisiveness is incredibly grounding. It creates the sense that life with this man will have momentum, not confusion. This is especially attractive to younger women who are still navigating their own sense of identity. Direction does not mean he has everything figured out. It means he is oriented. He knows what matters. He knows what doesn't. And he is willing to stand by those distinctions even if it costs him approval. Here is where many men misunderstand this behavior. They think not needing validation means being indifferent to others. It doesn't. It means not outsourcing your self-worth. An older man with direction still cares. He just doesn't need consensus to move forward. His confidence is quiet because it is internal. There is also humility in this. A man with real direction is not threatened by a woman's intelligence, ambition, or independence. He is not competing with her. He is not trying to dominate her growth. He respects her autonomy because he respects his own. That mutual respect creates equality without confusion. Psychologically, this behavior signals maturity. It shows that a man has moved beyond seeking identity through relationships. He does not need a woman to complete him, save him, or validate his masculinity. He wants connection, not correction. That distinction changes the entire emotional dynamic. A man who needs to be chosen gives away power. His behavior subtly communicates anxiety. He over-adjusts. He tolerates misalignment. He negotiates his boundaries. But a man who chooses himself first does not operate from fear of loss. He knows that losing alignment is worse than losing approval. Younger women sense this immediately. They feel that this man is not trying to win them. He is evaluating compatibility. That reversal creates attraction not through manipulation, but through self-respect. Direction also shows up in how a man handles uncertainty. He does not freeze when outcomes are unclear. He makes decisions with the information he has and adjusts as needed. This adaptability without panic feels safe. It suggests resilience. And resilience is deeply attractive. An older man with direction understands that life is not about certainty, but about commitment. Commitment to values, commitment to growth, commitment to integrity. That commitment gives his life shape, and people are drawn to shape in a world that feels increasingly fragmented. There is a philosophical layer here that matters. Direction without validation is the result of integration. A man has reconciled his past, accepted his limitations, and chosen his principles. He is no longer fighting himself. And when someone is no longer internally divided, their presence becomes calming. Younger women often describe this as feeling held emotionally. Not controlled, not constrained, held. That sense of being with someone who can contain complexity without collapsing is rare, and rarity creates desire. This is also why such men are comfortable being alone. Solitude does not threaten them. Silence does not scare them. They are not constantly seeking distraction or affirmation. That independence makes connection feel like a choice, not a necessity. And choice is attractive. If you want to cultivate this behavior, start by examining where you seek validation. Notice where you hesitate because you fear disapproval. Pay attention to the places where you abandon your values to maintain acceptance. That awareness is the beginning of direction. Build your life around what matters to you, not what impresses others. Make decisions that align with your long-term vision, not short-term comfort. Learn to tolerate being misunderstood without rushing to explain yourself. Because the truth is, the more you need to be chosen, the less grounded you become. And the more grounded you become, the less you need to be chosen. Here is the closing reflection to leave you with. Attraction is not created by convincing someone of your worth. It emerges when you live in alignment with it. Choose direction over approval, integrity over validation, and presence over performance. Do that consistently, and you won't just attract others. You'll finally stand firmly in yourself.